We are learning Likkutei Sichot Volume 2, Parshas Korach, Chapter 5. It says now a new issue, based on everything that we said. Okay. What he means is that it's become a custom for the people who hear these sichos, who read them, to take something from them to repeat in shul.
To what?
Here it says the B'tei HaKnesiyot.
What's the important thing in that going to bring the Shabbos afternoon?
That's the second stage. The first stage. Okay, that's the second stage. The first stage is, first of all, that the person who heard the sicha, who read the sicha, should say something in shul. נקודת פרשתנו היא הרי העניין של ויקח קורח, שחלק על כהונת הארון וטען כולם קדושים. So the essence, the point that we want to take, and by saying point, you're right, that he's talking about the women, because the women want the point. They want the whole discussion. They want the point. What's the point then? So the point of the whole parsha that you take is the machlokas, is the dispute that Korach had. That he disputed Aaron's priesthood and said, everybody is holy. So really it would be like, everybody should be able to act as a priest. Why are you different? So here he says that Kulam Kedoshim also goes in a different direction. The Kohen is also the posek. Okay. Later on it was changed. And the posek became anybody who learned Torah. Because the Kohen couldn't... The reasoning was always the same. That the Kohen was supposed to be living off of... the priest was supposed to be living off of other people's money, right? It was supposed to be...
What did the Kohen do?
Everywhere. No, just everywhere. They were everywhere. Basically, the way it worked was, you can imagine that he was like a rabbi, except the rabbi then was more connected to the rituals of the temple. That was like the definition of what it meant to be a rabbi. It was only much, much later that it started sublimating. Once the temple, even in the time of the temple already, there was a certain sublimation of this whole thing of the rituals in the temple, and it became more important to be a person who was learned, who knew things. But originally, the Kohen was the person who paskent. He was the one who gave the halachic ruling. So, by saying that everybody is holy, Korach is also saying that everybody should be able to give a psak, kirtzono, the way that he sees it. Kol echad posek ta mutar v'ta asur. Every person should be able to decide what is permitted and what is not. ישאפו לדעת שזו הייתה שיטת קורח, וממנה נובעת מחלוקת בינם לבין עצמם. So since, it's like, if you're true to your word, so now you have 253 people, and each one of them had his own opinion also. So within their group, they had a tremendous machlokas all the time. They had a tremendous...
The others were different tribes.
That was the whole point. He's not saying they have to be Levites or anything else. He's saying, Kulam Kedoshim. Everybody's holy. Everybody should be able to paskin the halacha the way they understand it. Okay? So he says that they had a machlokas within themselves. Machloket shenad Hashem shemayim zu machloket Korach v'adato. Now you understand what the sages said. They don't say the machlokas of Korach and Moshe, the machlokas of Korach and Aaron. The sages say the type of machlokas, the type of dispute that does not stand, that in the end will fall, is the dispute of Korach and his companions, his followers. Why do you say that? They weren't two sides of the machlokas. Now I understand why. Because, says the Rebbe, the pshat is that they were disagreeing with one another constantly, because each one of them, it's anarchy, basically, that's what it is. We already know that they translate this for some reason the way they do. צריך להיות ביטול לבעלי התורה. לאלו המסוגלים לפסוק על פי תורה, עד כדי כך שפסק ההלכה שלהם משפיע על המציאות, שכן ידוע שהתורה שולטת על המציאות. כן? So, really you have to be nullified to the person who's learned and who has the prowess, the ability to paskin the halacha, to make a ruling. It can't just be anyone just because what he feels like. That's anarchy. That's nonsense. Yesterday I was talking to my son. There has to be two criteria that make a person into somebody who can make a ruling. The first is that he has to know all the previous rulings. If you don't know all the previous, you don't know all the previous Torah before you, then you have no business talking about it in the first place. Even then, that's not enough. You have to be a samuch. Really, you have to be someone that Moshe Rabbeinu places his trust in. Right? Samuch both means to put your hands on something, but it also means, and that's the double meaning is very intentional in this case, that Moshe Rabbeinu would count on you. That he would say, okay, like with Rabbi Akiva, if he says so, I trust him. We're not connected that way today to Moshe Rabbeinu because the smicha ended sometime in the 3rd, 4th centuries. So the answer is we do what was called Likkutei the Kamai Kavdinan. We do the shlichus, we've been entrusted generation after generation to continue to perform the same duty that those who had smicha had. And truth is, certain things we don't rule in because we don't have smicha. There are certain things that we can't rule in. But in any case, if it's someone that you know that the previous generations would frown on and say, this person is not doing our work. He's gone off and doing his own thing. So he can't be somebody who rules. In any case, and it has to be someone whose ruling is so powerful that it controls nature. This we've talked about in the past, but not enough because we haven't really seen. I don't think we've seen a Sichot where the Rebbe talks about this. But the Rebbe was very fond of talking about the fact that man malchei rabbanan, that who are the kings? The sages. And what does he mean by that? What does the Gemara mean by that? So the Rebbe explains this many times, that it means that after they make a ruling, reality changes according to their ruling.
That's the famous story of the girl who's 3 years old.
Of the?
Girl, she was
Right. So there's a few examples. That's called man malchei rabbanan. We said that that's why the first mitzvah that we received was to sanctify the new moon. Why sanctify the new moon? Because there it says that 3 times atem, and atem, Rabbi Akiva taught this to Rabbi Yoshua when he was being, as it were, deprecated by Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel and forced to come on Yom Kippur according to his reckoning. And so Rabbi Akiva, he was younger than him, but he gave him this drush, he gave him this homiletical interpretation that says 3 times atem afilu shogegim, atem afilu mezidim. Okay? That even if you're wrong, even if you on purpose changed it, still the ruling is according to you. And that's what it means, that they can change reality. Okay. כן, יש לקחת מפרשתנו את העניין שדובר ביחס למתנות כהונה כפי הסברת הרמב"ם, כל חלב להשם, כשאדם נותן לעני וכך הוא נותן להשם, מלווה השם חונן דל, עליו לתת מהמובחר וכך בבית תפילה. So, the other thing we need to take, the other point, is first of all that anarchy is not the way to go. And secondly, that what we learned about that the choice, the beginning of every day, and the choice of everything that I do should be given to God. That's the other point. פירוש הדבר שהמובחר שבזמן, המובחר שבכוחות, המובחר שבכל שייך לאדם, יש לתת להשם. המובחר והיקר לאדם הם הרי ילדיו, ועליו איפה לתת להשם את הילדים, ואת המובחר שבזמנם, כלומר את השנים הראשונות שלהם. It says, the thing that's most precious to a person are his children. And so, the thing that's most precious, you should give to Hashem. What does that mean? That you should dedicate their first years of their life to Hashem, to learning Torah. As zocheu lebirkat abanim, lebirkat kohanim, and then he merits receiving the priestly blessing. Yivarecha bebanim v'mamon, as we said before, v'yishmerecha she'amamon yenutzal letzorchim briim u'smechim. That by doing this, you will be blessed with children. Your children will be blessed and with wealth. And Hashem will safekeep you that the wealth is used for healthy and happy things. Right? Because, God forbid, you should have to use your wealth to get well. כבר דובר פעם שבכך שאדם זוכה לממון עדיין אינו בטוח שכן כאשר כספו מוצא לרופאים, הרי ראוי היה יותר שיהיה בריא ושלא יהיו לו הדולרים לרופאים. כן, obviously every person would prefer to not have money but not need doctors. בברכת וישמרך היא שהכסף, וברכת וישמרך היא שהכסף ינוצל לצרכים בריאים ושמחים. And the blessing of Hashem should say keep you is that the money should be used for healthy and happy things. והסיום, וישם לך שלום. What is the end of the priestly blessing? And Hashem will give you peace. What does that relate to? לא מצא הקדוש ברוך הוא כלי מחזיק ברכה לישראל אלא השלום. That Hashem did not find a vessel worthy of holding blessing for the people of Israel except or more than peace itself. Peace is the vessel, meaning some people understand that peace is a goal. But no, peace is a vessel. Very important to understand the difference. Some people think that the most important thing in the world is to have peace. That's the most important thing. It's not true. The most important thing in the world is to serve God, is to reveal godliness. The best vessel for that, as this end of the Mishnah says, is peace. The best vessel for revealing godliness in the world is peace, but it's only a means, it's only a vessel. You can't make it into the goal itself. There's something that Zusha, you said it? No, Dunin used to say this. I thought it was Zusha Alperovich, the partisan. Who was the partisan?
Zusha.
Yeah, last name was Alperovich, right? No, something else? What was it? No. In any case, but it was Dunin who said this. What? Yeah. But Dunin was fond of saying in his later years that when he was younger, he thought that peace was the objective. He used to call it the unity of Israel, Achdus Israel. And he says it took him a long time to understand that Achdus is just a means, that having unity is just a means. You can use unity to serve idols. Everybody is unified, very nice, and then they all join together to serve an idol. Meaning they worship some. Right? There's many things in history have been that way. He said he understood suddenly that the goal was not Achdut Yisrael, was not the unity of Israel. The goal in the end was to reveal godliness. And the best vessel is the peace between Jews. When you have peace, you have everything. But you have to use it in the right way. If you don't use this vessel in the right way, it can become the worst thing in the world. So the same thing is true here. Right? That God did not find a better vessel than peace for giving the blessing. Meaning that God also, when He looks at us, He says, the goal is not for them to be in peace. That's very nice, but that's only a means. It's a vessel for something. What's the vessel? The vessel is for them to receive my blessing. My blessing is my revelation. That's what it means, that Hashem will give you a blessing. Even if it's a small vessel, there's a little bit of peace. Oh, no, sorry, I didn't read the sentence. כלומר, גם כשבכל אשר תעשה שהוא הכלי לברכה הוא כלי מועט, ישנו עניין השלום שהוא מחזיק ברכה. So it says, even when you do all you can, and that's a vessel for the blessing also, but it's a smaller vessel, there's still the issue of peace, which is what holds the blessing. I'm not sure what he means, but we'll have to accept it. It seems to me like a poor translation from the Yiddish. And then after that there's the final verse, because there's 3 verses, and then there's a 4th verse that says, that I will put my name in the children of Israel and I will bless them. That by Hashem, The addition, what he adds more after the what you would call it, the regular amount, he adds something more, and that more that he adds is greater than the regular amount. It's regular than the primary amount. וכשניתנות להשם מתנות כהונה, כפי שנאמר בגמרא, אלוקיכם כהנו, הרי ואני אברכם שהיא מרובה על העיקר. And so he says this is also tied to the priestly gifts, the tithes that were given to the priest. Why? Because God himself is described like a priest. As it says in the Gemara, when they saw, again, what's he doing in the whole question of someone saw Elijah in a graveyard. He says, what's a Kohen doing inside a graveyard? He's not supposed to be there. And then they come into a whole discussion of how do you know that Elijah was a Kohen? I thought he was from some other. It says Pinchas or Eliyahu. Then he come to the conclusion that Pinchas is Eliyahu. In any case, from there they go to another thing, which is that God himself is like a Kohen. And why? How do we know this? Because he wouldn't speak to Moshe within the confines of Egypt. Every time Moshe wanted to speak to him, he had to go out of the tumah, out of the impurity of Egypt, because Hashem wouldn't go in there. So that in itself raises a million questions. What do you mean? Hashem's everywhere. So what do you mean he's not in Egypt? He's not in a graveyard? What's going on here? In any case, the bottom line is that for certain things, we accept that God is like a priest. What does that mean? It means that, for instance, a person would say, I have to give everything I have to God. I have to give 100%. Because it's really not mine. It says, it's enough that you treat him like a priest. Meaning, it's enough that you dedicate 10%, 20%, however much it comes out, all the gifts together. It'll probably come out to 20, 22, 23%. So all that together is enough in terms of giving to God. It's as if you should treat him as if he's a priest. Of course he's much more. But we don't want you to lead a life where there's nothing that's yours. We want you to have possessions. Why do we want you to have possessions? Because without possessions you're not going to be connected to this world. You're not going to have a family, you're not going to tend the world. But still, when God gives back, when he blesses you for what you gave him, the tosefet, the addition that he gives you, is more than what you put in. Tosefet meruba al ha'ikar. This is also said in general about every time that a person does a mitzvah. Every time a person does a mitzvah, it's as if he's giving something to Hashem, but Hashem is blessing him back. So he's not blessing him with what he gave him. He's not giving. It's not the rabbit and the tortoise, or whoever they are, that they'll go back and forth all night, each one accompanying the other until there's no end, right? What he gives you is an addition, it's something more. And it says that in general, this is also a question with what we call the conservation of energy or conservation of matter. Is the universe a closed system where nothing new is coming in? So in Chassidus, it's not true. Hashem is always adding more into the system. That's why this whole thing of recycling, from a Jewish philosophical point of view, doesn't seem to have very much merit. Why? Because there's always something new being created. Also, this thing with oil, that there's a theory that oil is made from the fossilized remains of some plant life from who knows how long ago. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. We don't know. It's organic, we know that. But so there's something really strange about oil, because they were predicting that oil would run out. There would be no more oil in the world by something like 2030, 2040, 2050, I don't know when. And yet, the reserves of oil in the world have not changed in the last 150 years. since oil was discovered in the 1880s or 90s, whenever it was. It simply has not changed. They keep on finding more. So one of two things. We don't know. There's no accepted understanding here. But maybe it's being created in the earth. What is it being created from? I don't know, but it's being created from some carbon.
Put it down together with gravity and...
Who knows? We don't know. So that's not exactly the same thing, because in the earth there's like a closed system. It's hard to know where would you get more carbon from. But what if there is a way that the earth is just producing it from reserves that it has inside? So, nobody knows. The point is that at least spiritually we understand, and because it's this way spiritually, it must be this way also physically, that there is a constant influx of new energy into reality. And there were physicists who tried to build their system around this, the universe being an open system, not a closed system. One of the most important theories was a guy called Fred Hoyle, who... Hoyle? No, I don't think he was Jewish. Hoyle was not as far as I know, he wasn't Jewish. He did a lot of popularization of physics in the 80s and 90s. But one of his theories was, he called it very interestingly, the steady state theory, even though this doesn't sort of grasp the point. The point was that energy is being created within the center of galaxies. In any case, to this last verse of the priestly blessing, which is, I will bless them, Yeshnam Shnei Perushim. It has two different meanings. One is that God is going to bless the priests for having done what he asked him to, which is to bless the Jewish people. The second is that God is the one who's blessing the Jewish people. It's not the priests. ובהתאם לאמור, אברכם לכהנים שבנפשו ברכה ברוחניות, שתהיה לאדם חיוניות וערבות בלימוד התורה וקיום המצוות, וברכה לישראל בכל דרכיך ובגשמיות בכל הדרוש. So he explains here that if you understand that he's blessing the priests, this also relates to the Jewish people. It also relates to the people that the priests are blessing. How so? Because the Kohen inside of you, this is a whole new understanding here. He says only in the last few sentences. He says, there's a Kohen inside of you. What do you mean? What do I mean, the Kohen inside of you? In the same way, the Kohen inside of you is your divine soul. That's what we said in the beginning, that when you give the choice to the Kohen, what if you don't have a... Now we don't have Kohen, we don't have priests, and we don't have... you guys don't count, you only have duties, you don't get anything. So because you don't get anything, you don't get anything. You have to give back the money. Whatever they give you, you give back. You don't get anything. What do you get? No, it's not. You give it back.
No, I don't. I'm not.
Okay, you give it back. It's done with coins, and you give back the coins. And then they have to give you like 100 shekels for your trouble. That's not what it used to be. It used to be that amount was enough to keep you going for 3-4 months. Nobody's going to give you 3-4 months for anything. Then, anyway, everything, you don't get the maestros, you don't get anything anymore. You're working on it. Okay, good luck. In any case, so what are we talking about? Really, we're talking about, because otherwise it's not relevant, and the Torah has to be relevant all the time. So where is the priest today? The priest today, in my normal, everyday life, is my divine soul. So I need to give to my divine soul the choice of everything. That's really what he's saying. And he said it before, but it wasn't as clear as he's saying it now. So when the priests are blessing you, God is also blessing the priests. What is he blessing? He says, he's blessing your divine soul so that you feel, not the divine soul for sure feels this, but that when you're learning, when you're giving this choice time, these choice moments to the divine soul, you too, who identify with your animal soul, will feel the geschmack, the good taste of using this time in that way.
Good. Don't forget to bring me Shliach Mitzvah tomorrow.
What do you mean?
Shliach Mitzvah.
Oh, you're leaving on when? Thursday?
Tomorrow.
You're leaving tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow night?
Tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. But we're learning tomorrow.
That's it.
Okay.